Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Pension plan, a life changer for tourism workers, said Bartlett. 14 years in the making, some 250,000 tourism workers now have access to a $1 billion government-funded pension scheme. Launched at the Montego Bay Convention Center on Wednesday morning, the Tourism Workers Pension Scheme, TWPS, will provide a safety net for permanent, contract or self-employed workers who will be required to contribute 3% of their salary for the first 2 years. Those who are employed will have their contributions matched by their employers in the second year of the scheme, while all contributors will start paying 5% towards the scheme as of year 3. Red Cap porters, raftsmen, craft merchants and artisans, taxi operators, bartenders, waiters, room attendants, and self-employed suppliers to the tourism industry are among the groups eligible to join the scheme, said to have the potential to become the single largest in the country. This is more than just a game changer. It is, in fact, a life changer, as it gives our tourism workers something to look forward to that will supplement their savings going into the twilight years of this life, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett said, expressing his joy at releasing a project on which he and Permanent Secretary Jennifer Griffith has worked for so long. Like other Jamaicans, many tourism workers often fall on hard times without a pension after retirement. As such, Robin Russell, General Manager of DJ Resort, is hoping that the TWPS will create some stability in the market where persons can look at tourism as a more long-term option. We have always looked at tourism as transitional, but with this thing like this, we really hope that people can look at it as a career, he stated. The TWPS is being managed and executed by Guardian Group and Sagicor Life. The fund will be managed by a trustee headed by banker Ryan Parks. Tourism stakeholders have the initiative as a great step into the future, with Iberia star Philip Hofer stating that this was actually treating the sector with the importance it deserves. As managing director of 1,600 staff, Hofer added that the tourism would always be the carrying engine for Jamaica. He has confidence in the scheme's survival, owing to the fact that even if workers change jobs from one resort to another, their plan goes with them. Some hospitality companies have for years implemented their own plans for staff, but Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association President Clifton Reeder noted that there were too many past tourism workers now in the winter of their days without a financial blanket. Reeder wants a policy dictating that once you are joining a company as an employee, you should be registered on the pension plan. Bartlett confirmed that the government had remitted more than half of the $1 billion committed to the fund and was in the third tranche. He emphasized that this was in order to provide another unique feature of the pension scheme, that of creating an augmented group, people who have been 59 years older and would only have a maximum of 5 years contribution to their 65th birthday when the pension eligible would kick in. And because of this fund, those persons, even though they have only been contributing for 5 years, will be able to get $200,000 per year as though they were contributing for 20 or more years, he told the gathering, noting the minimum annual payout. In 1 year, if the scheme reaches its 3,500 target, the tourism minister expects the fund to grow to $100 billion and $1 trillion in 10 years. Ex-Permanent Secretary's son murdered in TNT. When Godfrey Perkins last spoke with his son Garth in December, he told him that he was quite enjoying the Christmas season. Perkins said he was satisfied, as any parent would be, that his son was fined. But late Monday, the peace that had consumed him after that telephone conversation quickly vanished when a barrage of phone calls came in from Trinidad and Tobago, where the younger Perkins was residing. He had been gunned down on Broadway in Port of Spain, the capital, sometime after 7 p.m. Police reports that the 34-year-old event planner, who managed local restaurant and cinema Estimate 101, had just left an ATM when he was approached by a gunman. He is said to have resisted the man's demands for money and was shot dead. The attacker then walked away. "We are badly shaken by it," Perkins, a former permanent secretary and commissioner of mines, told reporters. Gart, a former student of St. Jago High School and the University of the West Indies, was the younger of two sons. He had relocated to Trinidad, where he worked as an event coordinator at Hyatt Regency Trinidad before taking up the marketing manager position at Estate 101. We have to be now telling ourselves that while we are devastated, it has happened and it cannot be undone. Luckily, we are believers, so we have put the matter before God and have sought His support and peace of mind, and I think we have His support, Perkins said. The former public servant reported that his son had wished for him during the final telephone conversation all that was good for the new year. It is just very sad what happened to him. We are hurting, he bemoaned. A statement from Estate 101 said Garth was loved and respected by his colleagues and clients. Mr. Perkins was loved and respected by his colleagues and clients and will be missed dearly, the statement read. The Jamaican's death triggered an outpour of love mixed with anger and frustration on social media. Friends of Garth lamented his untimely death while others appeared shell-shocked. Garth Perkins, your life was taken from you too soon. I just can't believe this, Garty. You have left a big void in the hearts of everyone whose life you've touched, and there are so many. What is life? So fragile. Here today, gone tomorrow, Ray Nathan wrote. Stand Up For Jamaica renews call for early prison release amid COVID outbreak. Human rights group Stand Up For Jamaica is renewing its call for a system to put in place to facilitate the early release of low-risk offenders and those at increased risk of contracting COVID-19 arising from an outbreak of the virus in the island's correctional facilities. The Department of Correctional Services reported last Friday that there has been an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases among inmates and staff at correctional centers. The South Camp Adult Correctional Center has been placed on lockdown and movement has been restricted at the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center. The department said it has implemented measures to reduce the spread of the virus, but the human rights group says it is concerned about the management of COVID-19 cases in prison. In arguing that it has become clear that the steps taken to increase adherence to the Health Ministry's COVID-19 protocols are not enough to stem the rise in cases. Against this background, Stand Up For Jamaica says that immediate steps should be taken to reduce the population in remand and correctional centers, as well as at police lockups. Survival Mode, Denham Town High tackles mental toll of violence, pandemic as students return to classroom. Administrators at the Denham Town High School in Kingston and the police are banding together to try to shield kids from the recruitment into gangs and shelter them from violence, planning to ramp up their efforts as the students return for resumption of face-to-face classes. Coupled with their exposure to violence, the pandemic has also been a mental toll on several students, many of whom have been largely absent from virtual classrooms in the COVID-19 era. Faced with this reality, the school has delayed the resumption of academic lessons as it seeks to take the first few days of the new school term to deal with some psychosocial issues. We're starting off not with teaching, but with just to ensure that the students' mental space is supported and that psychosocial support is there for them, Acting Principal Donovan Hunter noted, as he turned students onto the compound into a red carpet affair to welcome them back to the physical space. Guidance Counselor Don Scott Turner noted that the intervention was crucial as students coming from the surrounding communities, such as Rosetown, Tivoli Gardens, and Denham Town itself, where a zone of Special Operations ZOZO has been in effect since 2017, would have been exposed to violence and other forms of abuse. She noted that there have been cases of students who had prolonged exposure to abuse and violence at home and in their communities since the closure of schools, disclosing that an 8th grader had witnessed the shooting death of her neighbor. That student is back at school, but at the same time mentally, she is not here because she would have seen her friends being taken down at the hands of violence in the community. This student has been severely impacted by it. She had close friends who have died. She spoke of a child about 2 years old who died right next door to her. So she is one of those cases that will have to be taken through some serious intervention to help her to come to a place of acceptance of what has happened and to get past it, said Scott Turner. Through its Community Safety and Security Branch, the Jamaica Constabulary Force has also been working closely with the school in tackling issues of gang violence that have spilled over into the institution. District Constable Anissa Marge, who is attached to the Denham Town Police Station, reported that several initiatives have been implemented at the school to equip students and parents with conflict resolution skills and to help them cope with traumatic experiences. The Boys Outreach for Success in Schools BOSS program, for example, was launched during the pandemic in May last year to target male students at risk of becoming gang recruits. March explained that the grade 7 boys, especially, who were seen hanging out on the corners in the community, were considered most vulnerable. Some of these boys are part of gangs, so we are trying to win them from now. We have more than 20 boys in the program, and we include the 7th graders because when I went on the road, I saw them on the corner. I realized that that's where it begins, so I start to work with them, she explained. The 10th graders and 11th graders that we have are students who we know from before were given problem and they used to have turf war in school. Those are the boys I started with first, said March. Hunter expressed glee at the return of face-to-face classes, boasting that at least 300 students have showed up for school since Monday. Overall, we're expecting about 700 students by next week. Normally, before COVID, we had 865 students, the acting principal noted that a rigorous campaign was undertaken using a town crier, WhatsApp messages, community walkthroughs, and letters left at community centers and hostels to get the message out that classes will be resuming on location. With remedial cases and diagnostic testing already revealing significant underperformance, Senior teacher Yvette Richards Thompson said the administrators are now grappling with a troubling learning gap. There are some students who before the pandemic were performing at a certain level, and when we tested them recently in some cases, they are functioning up to grade 3 levels below that we would expect. Generally, we get the children with literacy issues, and with them being out of school for almost 2 years, you can understand how much worse the problem is at this time, she said. Social Development Manager at the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, Mona Suho, reported that remedial programs have perished despite the pandemic and that a transitional assistance program is now in place to assist school leavers entering the world of work. We want to ensure that every single young person in this space is connected either to the workforce or to enterprise grants or to help them further their education, like at Heart NSTA Trust, so that we have more young people connected to productive activities. This is the big push for this year, said Suho. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.